Hi everyone, welcome back to another continuing education check-in. Today we're talking about friendships and how they interact with your relationship, life, and we're talking about, we're titling this, when should they meet your friends? But we're going to talk about when is it a good time to bring your friend to hangouts, like what occasions are like the best. Sometimes it's hard to know because one person will like bring you to everything and you're trying to figure out when's the right time, but also like what occasions should you be introducing your friends to the person that you're talking about, the person that you're dating. So we're going to break all of that down. And then we wrap up this episode with another 99 questions for success. And so this episode's just going to be full of good advice, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I want to get us started just by, like, off the top, when do you think is the best time to introduce your friends
like
to...
first meeting?
Yeah.
I'd say when things are serious.
Okay.
It's good. I know you just gave me a look when I said
yeah.
that. I felt it.
Everyone's giving you a look right now.
Well, I know that like when things are serious is like so different and it can be defined so differently by different people. You know, some people will wait till you're boyfriend, girlfriend. Some people will wait till like, I don't know, like you're something more serious than that. But like, I feel like when you see them in your life for like, you know, the future.
Okay.
I think that's a good time. Because then like, you know, your friends aren't going to just be dealing with you. You know, like this person's schedule started to like intermix with yours. Like you were just spending a lot of time with this person and like you don't feel like that's a temporary thing. Okay. You feel like, oh, like I'm probably going to see this person. Like I see them in my life for like, you know, forever. Okay, I won't say it in air quotes. Just like I see them in my life for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's probably good that my friends meet them because they're going to have to know each other and like start building a relationship as well.
Okay, but it's probably like a mutual thing, right? So, like, let's say you think that this is really serious and this is gonna go somewhere, but then the other person doesn't. Like, you're talking about the situation where, like, both of you view it as serious and it's gonna go somewhere probably.
And I think it's not a good idea to introduce somebody to your friends unless you and your partner have, like, decided, like, oh, is this going somewhere? Like, what are we doing? Because, like, then it's just, like... I mean, I've been in the situation where I was just, like, talking to somebody and, like, we were definitely not on the same page about what we were. But he, like, introduced me to all his friends and stuff like that. And I was kind of, like... Because, like, then it's not a permanent thing.
Yeah.
You know? Then I'm not going to, like... And then also, I'm not saying that I'm going to be disrespectful, but if we are not anything serious and I'm meeting your friends and doing all these things, like, I'm not, like... so much on your team as I would be if we're like, oh, we're boyfriend, girlfriend, this is what's coming next, like da-da-da, and like we're a unified front.
Yeah.
It still feels like two individual people.
So what are like some signs that you can look for? Because if we just throw out like things are getting serious, like you see this going somewhere, like that's kind of vague and it will differ for every single person. And so are there any good signs that you can look for so that you start to get this feeling like, oh, maybe this is like a good time?
That's a very good question. But before we dig into that, I had just another thought of like an alternative thing that people could think and that people do. Like this guy that I was talking to, like introducing me to his friends like early on before making anything serious. Some people use your friends as like to sift out like the bad apples kind of. Yeah. You know, because like your friends will always want what's best for you. They're looking at it, you know, not from inside of the situation. Yeah. So some people will not wait until they're serious and will actually do the introductions and get everybody intermingled early on. And then if they, you know, pass the friends test, then that's like, oh, now I can take them even more serious if they pass the family test. Yeah. Because like I feel like I could ask the same question about meeting families. Like, you know, is it when the relationship is serious or do you wait until they've met the family and things are good to make it even more serious? Right. You know?
Yeah. I get that. I have thoughts on both. And so I'll start off by sharing like signs that you can look for and maybe they're good indicators that it's a good time to introduce them to your friends. And then I'll also talk about the case where maybe you introduce them to your friends early to try to have your friends also help you get a good feel for them. And so I think some signs you can look for is that if you're ready to put them on your social media, like let's say, even if it's just like a story, and like you only see like their hand or
a soft launch.
Exactly. I think that's a sign that you're starting to like head in that direction. You're ready. And then I think the other sign is you're gonna be talking about this person with your friends already.
Yeah.
They just haven't met them. And so when your friends start saying like, oh, I want to meet them, or your friends can also tell like when things are getting more serious between you two. Like you start bringing them up a lot more. You start bringing them up when you're talking about your plans. Then your friends are naturally going to be like, oh, like things are moving. When can I meet this person?
Right.
And that's also a good sign. Yeah. And so that's pretty easy. Do you have anything to add?
No, not really. I think, it's a good sign to wait until even, for your friends to inquire and want to ask and want to be involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Another quick little sign is, so I don't know how it is for everyone, but like for me, I wouldn't tell people that I'm less close to, for example, like my coworkers, unless I felt like confident that things are going somewhere.
Super, super good point.
Yeah.
Even.
So I think that's also another like good sign. Like when you're ready to tell people that you're less close with, then that's a sign that like you're pretty sure about where things are going, or you have a good feeling about this.
Yeah. That you can kind of rely on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super fair.
Okay, so now going back to your other point, Sania, about using your friends to help gauge the other person. So I've done this before, and I used to be in the camp that it's a good thing to have your friends like get feel
involved early on.
Yeah, and give you honest feedback about this person. And my reasoning in the past was your friends are a reflection of you. Your closest friends, they have shaped who you are, but then also you are the most like them.
Right.
And so when you see how the person that you're with interacts with them, you'll get a good idea of how compatible you guys are actually. Now, I don't really believe this anymore.
Okay.
And I think that's because everyone is very different. Okay. And I've seen situations where there's like a cultural difference. So like let's say like you and your friends are all of the same culture, like religious background, you grew up in the same area, but let's say you started like dating someone who didn't grow up like you. And that doesn't mean you're not compatible, because like opposites attract, and sometimes it's good to like be with someone whose strengths are your weaknesses. But that means that when they meet your friends, there's also like some cultural differences. And a lot of times like you end up being the middleman. So even though you're most like your friends, like it doesn't mean you're exactly the same, and maybe like you're also closer to the person that you're with, your partner. And so like I've seen situations where there can be clashes in like there's just communication differences, differences in like who pays the bill, and like how talkative each person is. And so there's gonna be some times where you introduce them to your friends and it just doesn't go super well, and you're not gonna get the best like like your friends are not going to be able to gauge that person super well, but then also like it could be a little awkward if you do it too early, or if like you didn't prep both sides well enough.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think this is also making me kind of even think of something that it's like, I think if you're using your friends as a test or like as something to reconfirm whether this person is good for you, that means you're in a position where you're just not that sure about them yet. Like potentially like that's why you're looking for this external source of validation. If you're super sure about them, you're going to introduce them whenever you feel good and ready, and like you said, when you're feeling sure that things are going to go well and blah 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 blah, and you're not really using your friends as that test, because I feel like if you're using your friends as a test, you're feeling shaky about them, then they're also probably feeling like unsure, or like, you know, a little uncertain about you. So then when they're in this situation with your closest friends, like there's inherent awkwardness that's just bound to be there because like, you know, people are going to be like, this guy that introduced me to his friends like way too early, like, you know, his friends would ask about like, oh, are you going to go here with him? And he's traveling to here. And I was just like, I don't even know what we are. I have no idea what the next 2 months is going to look like, much less like if I'm going to do this with him in 6 months, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just like awkwardness could come up and like people would talk and ask questions about this and that. And like, I think another awkward situation is like, if you guys are not super solid yet and your friends are bringing up things with your partner, like, oh, and did you know about like this thing that he used to do? And your partner's like every single, you know, for a few things it makes sense. Your childhood friends are obviously going to know you about certain things more than your partner. But like every second sentence they're saying something and you're like, huh? He used to play football in high school? Like, I didn't know that. He used to do this. And like, it just shows to the world also that your relationship is so shaky. And then like, all those projections of it being shaky is just gonna like, I feel like it's just downhill. I don't really see it being as like a positive thing that you could get anything out of.
Yeah, those are great points. I love that. And yeah, it's good things to keep in mind because a lot of times I think all of us just want to like our friends to meet them. And we want to show them off. But then this is just like good advice of things to keep in mind because
like don't get overexcited.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
And also set your expectations well. Like sometimes it's just a little hard in the beginning and it's gonna get off to a slow start. And that doesn't mean that they're not compatible or you guys are not compatible. But stuff like that just takes time. And
we were talking about like, you know, the meeting the parents. I totally think meeting the parents, you know, could also go both ways. It could also be a test. It could also be like done after you're already certain, like, yep, I'm gonna like marry this person, like take it or leave it, this is who they are, like, you know. Maybe that could be like a separate episode and we focus today on the dynamics with our friends.
So let's make sure like we cover all the basics. So in what situations should you bring the person that you're talking to or your partner along? Let's say you've already determined that things are serious and you want to start introducing them to your friends. Does that mean that you bring them to every hangout, to every birthday party?
I don't know.
Okay.
This is where I'm at with this question.
Right.
Because I think it's so complicated because I've been, you know, I can think of being on the receiving end, like of being the friend that's hosting the birthday party. And, you know, I invited like my friend because like I want her to be there and like make my day special. But I can also be on the other end where it's like, oh, my friend's inviting me to something. Like, it would be so great if she can also like, if I can also bring my boyfriend because like, I'm with him all the time, like the timing works out, the scheduling, like everything's great. And then he can start getting slowly like introduced into the friend group because he's going to be there at every single thing. And like I can see, like I said, being annoyed, like as the friend who's hosting the birthday party, like, dude, am I never going to see my friend by herself anymore? Like, is Sania no longer Sania? Is Sania always Sania plus blank? You know? Which is kind of annoying. Sometimes you need just your friends. So I think like, I don't know. I don't know if I've done this right or not, but I think as like a good starting point, maybe Ethan, you can let me know your thoughts. If it's a big group situation happening, I think it's valid for you to bring your partner.
Oh, wow.
Because, okay, this is why I say this. Because I think if it's a more intimate thing, your friend's inviting you so that you can make them feel special. Or so that they can catch up with you. And you and them could, like, you know, give advice, share stories, like, catch up on just what's going on with you and them. And it's very personal. And, like, there's lots of, like, inside jokes and things like that. So if you bring your partner, like, they're bound to feel left out. Or your friend's bound to feel awkward. Like, oh, like, can I not talk about this random guy that you met at this bar that one time that I want to laugh about right now because your partner's here. You know, so I feel like a good way to like ease into the introductions, and I think as a good rule of thumb, you can always bring them if it's like a big thing. If it's like smaller, intimate things like with your friends, I feel like, you know, you should still have your friends, or you should still give your friends the right to have you without your partner. And I think, I mean, I don't know how married people do things, but I feel like that should be applicable for marriage as well. Like, you know, I understand that you're married and like, you know, you are a unit, but it's like sometimes your friends want you like I want my friend that I had. you know?
Yeah. So I have lots of thoughts.
Okay, good.
To say. I think like we've hit a gold mine, and this is like super applicable to everyone listening.
Yes.
And I will say, like this to start off as is like the prep work. I think is the most important thing to nail down when you're thinking about your partner meeting your friends. And so future Ethan, clip this, because I think this is really important. So first of all, you need to know your partner and like what social situations are they good at and what social situations are they not good at. So it's good to know like, are they good in big groups or do they prefer more one-on-one personal interactions? And start off there. And then I get what you said, Sania, about how sometimes you want to save the personal interactions with just you and your friend. If your partner is better at one-on-ones, then sometimes a personal interaction will be better because you are introducing them slowly and they don't have as much to focus on at once.
That's
but
fair.
If they're super extrovert, they love meeting new people in groups, then maybe they would prefer
the bigger
group.
I can see that.
And then I think even on top of that, like when you think about introducing your partner to your friends, it's the same as bringing like a new friend into a previous friend group.
I was just thinking about this.
Exactly. And so the prep work is super important. When you're bringing someone into a friend group and you want them to like integrate into this friend group, like what are the best ways to do so? Like a lot of times the best way is to get them to know one person in that friend group so that when you guys are in a big group, your partner always has someone that they already know and that they can talk with. So that way it's just a little easier for them to like take a baby step first. And then like I don't know about you, Sania, but a lot of times when I am put into a large group setting, my default before I start talking to everyone is just to talk to people that I know first.
Right. Yeah.
And so
same.
Creating that space for your partner to like know someone that they can talk to. Let's say like you start making your rounds because you know everyone in the group. You want to be able to leave your partner with someone that they're comfortable with. And so those all like fall into the prep work. And then maybe the last thing on prep work is that you want to prep your partner on everyone who's going to be there, the stories that the storylines, and then also like who are the personalities in the group. So these are people that are really chill, that are great to talk to. These are people who are high energy, who are going to like force you to take a shot or something. So it's just good to know like this is like the feel of the group.
And I feel like they're gonna already have some rapport because like you're already telling them in your like interaction through the partner, like, hey, my friend was doing this day, and like, oh, this one of her ex called her, and this, so they already know the character names, and I think it's just good to like you said, a little summary refresher before you go in. I think like what a golden nugget, Ethan, you're bringing them in same as you'd be bringing in a new friend to an old friend group. Crazy. It like takes off so much of the pressure of like, oh my god, like I want to make sure they're okay, but it's like you have already done that so many times with your friends. It's no different.
Definitely. And I think when you've done all the work beforehand, then it makes everything so much easier. But it's hard to but in the past, I didn't know that I should do all this work beforehand. But now I see like way more. It's the same for all of us. When we're getting into anything new, we just want to be a little prepared and know what to expect. And so I've seen different situations where the expectations are just too high. So, like, for example, someone's like, oh, I'm going to meet your close friends. They're your close friends, so they're going to just be, like, this type of person. And if you don't prompt them, if they don't know any better, a lot of times, like, their expectations are going to get messed up because that person is just not who they thought in their head. And so, like, I think I can even do a better job at this. I will say, like, something like a birthday party, in general, I think it's very tempting to bring your partner to because all your friends are there.
Yeah.
And it's like an easy way for them to get to meet everyone. But then I think it's hard because like you're also close to the birthday person. But then it's hard for your partner to meet the birthday person because the birthday person is like center of attention. They're trying to talk to everyone. It's hard to like actually like
get any interaction with them.
Yeah. And
like any meaningful interaction. Yeah. I think you're right. I think you think about what your like how your partner is and what they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And like you think about like, okay, are they like the type you can, they like to work a room, they like to go around, or would they prefer those smaller interactions? And you start with those.
Yeah.
I think you start with wherever they are on the spectrum, wherever they're comfortable. And then eventually, you can go to the birthday party and it'll be okay because there's already a little history. There's already a little, I already know you. There's some familiarity.
Yeah. So like a regular hangout, it's like low stakes. You can it's like plug and play. You can do it whenever. A birthday party, it's helpful to have some kind of history and then like bring them to that. So splitting these events up into like different types lets you know, okay, like is this okay enough to bring my partner? For example, like I would say like a work event is like probably like one of the highest tiers and like it's helpful to like actually really have some kind of history. Otherwise, like those dynamics are really hard to navigate.
Yeah.
Because like your boss is there and
I don't know, like Ethan, I feel like because you're a very considerate person, and I mean so am I, but there's people out there, like there's a guy I was talking to last year that like he used to bring me to all of his work things. And like he just didn't care because like before me he used to bring some other girl to all of his work things. So some people are very casual about it, and again I think those people need to learn and be a little bit more intentional because like then it looks bad on you and your place of work that you're whimsical and you're dating a new person I'm not saying it's like a bad look, but in a workplace where people are married and have kids and have like a lot of stability, it is not a good look if every work party there's a new girl on your arm.
Yeah, I think a good way to like view that is not offensive to anyone is that it's a big deal to bring new characters into the show or the movie.
Yeah, totally.
And so like you don't want to ever bring like if you imagine like you're a director of a big movie or no, like a TV show. You don't want to ever bring a new character in and have to kill him off immediately.
Right.
And it's the same with introducing someone to your family, to your coworkers. The stakes are just a little higher when you bring someone new into the show. And so it's important, going back to what we first discussed at the beginning, that you want to have a good feeling that this is going somewhere, that this is serious, that there's a strong foundation, so that you just have more security, that you don't have to kill them off right away, and that they can stick around for at least a whole season or like however many episodes.
That's a really good way to put it, I think.
Yeah.
I think one other thing that we haven't thought about at all or talked about is like your actions based on what your partner is doing. Because what if your partner is the one that like, is bringing you to everything all the time, to every single hangout, like you have just become like an extension of them.
Yeah.
And like it feels really nice, like, being on the receiving end because you're like, wow, like they just want me around all the time, like we can be together all the time, which are all like very positive feelings. It's like, oh, they're not hiding anything by going to boys' night, like I'm always there, like and so it feels really positive, but then it like starts putting pressure on you because it's like, okay, well, time for you to do the same. And like I feel like that's another situation where we said if the friends are asking to meet your partner, you should introduce them. But also if you're starting to feel this pressure, or if your partner starts, making comments like, oh, we never hang out with your friends.
Yeah.
Oh, am I ever going to meet like people that are important to you? Like stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think this is a great point, and this is like a major thing that we need to talk about on this episode. I think in general, in an ideal relationship, romantic relationship, there are like, like the Venn diagram that has like the overlap and stuff. Like I feel like that should be your lives. So like one circle is you, one circle is the other person, and then there's overlap in the middle. But not everything is overlapped.
Okay.
And so I think it's important that you both have your own lives, especially like while you're dating, and then you still have like some shared things in the middle. And I think as you get closer and closer and you're working towards marriage, the circles overlap more and more.
Right.
But I don't think they ever fully overlap.
Okay.
And so it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Sania. You still want those one-on-ones with your friend where you're able to catch up and really talk about like the deep stuff without your partner there, because maybe the things that you have to share is about your partner, and you need someone to like give you advice and stuff. And so I don't think the circle should ever overlap, and your partner is there for every single thing.
Right.
And it's good to have your own interests and your own hobbies, so that if they're on a work trip or they are out of town visiting family, you still have your life.
You don't feel like your life is like...
Exactly. Like went out the window or something.
Right.
But then at the same time, like, it's important to have the overlap, because you don't want to ever feel like you're dating a stranger. And you want to, like... If your goal is to work towards a marriage and you're actually going to build a life together, you need things in common to build off of. Right. So agreements on what things you will enjoy doing on the weekends together, or friends that you will hang out with because you're spending so much time together. It's easier to like invite mutual friends to your house to hang out instead of like trying to hang out with friends separately. And so I think you need both. And what happens, like, let's say they're trying to overlap the circles too much and bring you to every single thing, or not overlap enough and they're not wanting to introduce you to their friends or their family. I think that you need to sit down and have a conversation. But also, it depends. Like, I think you need to figure out at this moment in time, what do I want? What am I comfortable with? Because maybe we're pretty serious, but I am really invested in my side business. And so I don't feel like I need to like hang out with your friends all the time. Like, I also just need to communicate, like, this is what I want at this stage.
Right.
And it would be helpful if, like, if I saw your friends, like, once every other week. Or, like, we've been dating for 2 years. Like, I would really like to meet your family now. Because I think that if we're gonna make this go the distance, like, I would like to know more about you and become part of your family. So, like, it's hard because this brings up a lot of expectations that you hold, and I think it just requires a conversation. But then I think, like, it's important to avoid the traps of our lives have to be like...
Yeah. Like, I was just thinking about, you know, you becoming friends with your partner's friend.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like they're hanging out without you, they're talking, they're like, they are friends independent of you. Like, I feel like that just gets so very, very overlapped, like a little bit too much. You know, like, I feel like also you need to have your differences, and like, like, I need to be able to come to you and tell you stories about what's going on in my friend's life, and like, you need to not already know them, you know? Like, it's good that you get along, but like, it's good to, like you said, keep it separated. And like, your friends are your friends still, my friends are still my friends. But it's great if everybody gets along when it's time for everyone to get along.
I will say, like, that maybe only doesn't apply if you guys, like, met mutual friends together.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, naturally, like, one person's going to be maybe a little closer. But then it's like, that's a cool situation to be in, because I think it's really nice when you make new friends together.
Yeah, true. I agree.
Yeah.
And then also, if you started dating from the same friend group, you know, obviously then all your friends are mutuals, pretty much.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But whenever you're uncomfortable with something, or something, like, feels off, like, that's just an indication that it's time for a conversation. And it doesn't have to be anything big. A lot of times it only becomes big when you don't have a conversation about it, and then you just keep going.
I think the way you communicate it is so, so, so important. Like, you know, communicating it in a low stakes way, like we've been consistently saying on this podcast.
Yeah. And then if it ever feels higher stakes, use the awareness wheel, episode 45. And I think you'll be good to go. Okay, so we're going to transition now into our end segment, and we've been calling this 99 questions for success. And so we've pulled together some questions that we think, or people have thought are good questions to ask in a relationship. And we're going to talk about how helpful each of these questions are, and do we think these are good questions to ask and when.
Okay.
So the very first question is, what's the difference between being exclusive versus a relationship?
I think this is a solid question. I think it gives you a lot of clarity. I think you should ask it very early on so that everyone's like expectations are established and like they can be managed after that.
Yeah.
Because different people define exclusive and relationship with like different nuances, different words mean different things to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In general, modern dating has taken like a lot of things have changed, like from traditional dating and being exclusive, or like all these like sub labels are like very new and different.
Yes.
And so it's just good for everyone to be on the same page about what everything means. And it's a good opportunity when you ask this question to figure out what the other person really wants. Because when they're talking about what's the difference, they're letting you know what their preferences are subtly, that would give you a better feel for them. And for people watching that are not super familiar with all these terms, in general, you start in the talking stage, and then you transition into being exclusive, and then you transition into being a relationship, and that's like usually the path.
Trajectory,
yeah, that's right. Okay, the second question: would you be with someone who wants to wait until marriage?
I think that's another super good thing you should bring up also early on, because a lot of times, like, you know, especially with nowadays, like people are really like seeing the value in like celibacy and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to like talk about it, because maybe you and your partner have different histories and want different things in the future. Just like maybe they weren't celibate before you, but now they would like to be, or like whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think it's good to openly talk about it and come up with something that you're both comfortable with.
Yeah, I think like when it comes to like being intimate with each other, it's such a big part of your relationship, and it's important to be on the same page. And a lot of times it's uncomfortable to like ask to be intimate, or ask like when someone wants to be intimate.
True.
This is a good question to ask, because you're gonna figure out what someone is comfortable or not comfortable with just using this question. You're gonna find out a lot about them. Okay, the next question: would you take someone back if they cheated on you?
So this as a question to ask your partner.
Yeah.
I think it's another valuable thing to ask, just because, maybe not their answer to this specific question matters, because I think that depends a lot on circumstance and this and that.
Yeah.
But like, I think just, hearing about what their thoughts are on cheating, and like if they're comfortable admitting if they've ever done that in the past, or if they've ever been cheated on, and like maybe that's like, I feel like there's a lot of anxiety surrounding the topic of cheating, and I feel like it's important to see like both of your thoughts and feelings about it, just so you can understand each other.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, the next one: can your significant other make new friends with the other gender during a relationship?
So this as a question well, first of all, my answer is like, no way. But as a question to ask them, I feel like it's kind of awkward to bring up as like a question, like, hey, like, by the way, do you want to make friends with the other gender? Like, no.
Yeah.
But like, if you see it starting to happen, like, if your partner's like, oh, I was at the grocery store and I met this girl and she was so nice and da-da-da, and we're going to go play pickleball later. That's when you can kind of talk about this topic. Yeah. I don't think it's like you have to go out of your way to bring it up, like some of the other questions. But I think that's when you can talk about it and establish whatever boundaries you have. Like, if you're cool with it, you're cool with it.
Yeah.
If you're like, absolutely not, you're not doing that, like, or we're not going to be together, you can say that as well. Yeah,
this is good for the boundary conversation, and it should be talked about at some point. But this question, I don't think is good. Like, it's very confrontational.
Yes.
And
it's very what ify, like, oh, if you met somebody and if you did this, and it's like, I agree. It could lead to a very good conversation about boundaries and what, you know, what you were expecting and what you're hoping will happen.
Yeah.
But you don't need to get ahead of it like this.
Yeah, definitely. And then the very last one, what are your thoughts on children at your wedding? So, Sania, you picked this one. You thought it was funny. You go first.
I think it's funny because, well, I just thought, like, I didn't think that was even, like, a topic to discuss. Like, I don't know. I guess I never thought about the kids at the weddings. Like, I assume they're just always there.
Oh.
But I guess, yeah, maybe culturally, like, people have different opinions and, like, people are used to different things. And weddings with, like, different... I kind of just laughed at it because I didn't even know it was a topic to be discussed.
Yeah.
I think when your relationship is starting to get serious and, you know, you're starting to talk about rings and this and that and what ifs in the future, you have to talk about this.
Well, I think actually, like, you should talk about it later, like, when you're actually thinking about the wedding.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it needs to be, like, way more than serious because...
Okay.
I think a lot of times, like, if your relationship isn't there yet and you ask a question like this, then I feel like you introduce pressure into the relationship because all of a sudden now, like, you've brought up the word wedding.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Like, is there any hope to be engaged soon? Like, are you just saying this, like, to be joking? In general, I think it's a good idea to understand if your partner is good with kids.
Yes.
And so... you know, this question has a hint of that.
Or if they want children and things like that. Like, yeah, just their thoughts on kids.
Yeah, and I think that tells you a lot. But I think you should save this question for much later when you've already been talking about a wedding. And this is not out of the blue
Okay,
anymore.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Guess I won't bring it up this weekend. I'm kidding.
Who are you bringing this up to?
My blank.
Yeah. Okay. But... well, that's where we'll end the episode, and hopefully this was a lot of fun and helpful for you. I know it was for me. And we'll catch you guys in the next one.